Habberstadt. Let's get everybody down. Where's Laura? She has to be here too.
When's the pitch game start?
Yeah, when's the pitch game start? Have a seat here, Laura. This is your life, Jimmy Habberstadt. Now, everybody here tonight at least has one Jimmy Habberstadt story. And some of these individuals have selected some of their finest stories about Jimmy Habberstadt.
None of them true.
I think the first one will lead us off will be Bernie Smith.
I only get to give you one.
No, come here.
Only one?
Well, if you have a couple, you can share.
Well, I got these are not truly specific stories because they would embarrass you.
He actually wrote down notes.
Oh, I do have some extensive.
Thanks,
Let me see if I can find one here that fits the.
Oh God.
Well, I think maybe I could give you a general overview of Jim in his practice of law. You know, most of us, when we prepare for trials, you know, we like to review the law and prepare our clients and get ready to go into trial. Jim, on the other hand, gets himself a full-length mirror. He gets himself some substantial quantity of straw, stuffs it in strategic spots throughout his clothes. Gets a pair of suspenders that he works on, and then he, oh shucks, goes in front of the mirror, and then he goes on in. That, unfortunately, is absolutely true, too. And the really sad part about it is amazingly successful. That's where I don't understand. Let's see, we got something. Oh, I think probably the closest thing to a true story would be Jim has a one. You know, we go to lunch fairly often, and every once in a while Jim will read in the paper about some poor son of a gun who's charged with a criminal offense, and Jim is, you know, that so and so, whatever he did doesn't make any difference. That son of a gun deserves everything that the law can give him. He ought to be sent off. Well, that's an interest. You know, we agree on that generally. And what happens is, a couple weeks later, Jim will drop by the office and advise me that this only son of a saint recently been
falsely.
He's just been released from a seminary where he spent his entire life in meditation. Has falsely been
Recently came across with a check.
You don't always get those checks. Gives you a whole different perspective.
Well, I think enough on the law. One thought I do have on Jim's. Jim has, you're probably aware, has really a fine hunting dog, Lena. And you know,
that's the truth.
And this is the truth. I never fully understood why he had the dog until I sat down one time and thought about it. You know, the dog required a whole lot of training, and you know, it really was more than I expected Jim to be able to put into any animal. But you know, I got to think about it. Jim has this ego that, you know, when you go hunting, you know, Jim is you know, he was born with a shotgun in his hand, you know, and he has to be the best, you know. When a flock of birds go over and everybody shoots and two drop from the flock, you know, Jim says,
got a ball.
Got a ball. Well, I never figured out. The law taught Jim this, or maybe Jim knew it already. The possession is 9/10 of the law. And what Jim does is he has Lena go out and retrieve these birds for him. So there is absolutely no question that whether he hit them or not, they're in his possession. That's it.
The only true thing he'll told you all night.
That doesn't exhaust by any means. If we get slowed up here, I'm willing to share with you.
Speaking of Lena, I think Charlie Ford over here, who has the camera, has a dog hunting episode that he'd like to share with everybody.
It has anything to do with his dog trying to seduce mine. We got mixed up in here.
I second the motion.
It is related to that a little bit. I got a call just the night before we were going hunting saying, please call Jim Habberstadt. You know, I was gone and I was taking care of sick people and had to come home, and I called him at the restaurant and he said, well, by the way, my dog's in heat and I don't want you to bring your dog on the trip. said, it sounds to me like your dog's got the problem, not my dog. So I took my dog, and he had a wonderful time.
He had a pretty good time the year before. Yeah, he did.
Matter of fact,
Funnier the year before.
you haven't gotten my stud fee bill yet.
Send it to Jernstead.
In fact, Buffy's the only one that really wants to go on in town.
Buffy had such a good time. The year before, he chased my pickup all the way down to Dry Hollow Road when I picked the kids up at the babysitter.
Bill Dick has a few stories on old Jim Habberstadt. Come on forward. Get on camera. Get on camera.
Okay.
These will all be true.
This is true, yes. I'm going to tell you just one true story. This has nothing. Jim is, of course, an excellent lawyer. We all know that. Very perceptive. To be an excellent lawyer, you have to be very perceptive. But I'm going to tell you about Jim's sex life.
This will be short.
Really, this is a short story. Short but true. But I was at a party once with Jim. You know, it's really amazing that he produced 3 children. I love it. But we went to a party one time, and I think Dolores is always off working, you know. So certainly Jim has plenty of opportunity if he ever wanted to stray. And this is before age.
Bill, does that give you an idea how old Jim is?
Anyway, we were at a party, and there was I don't know, how would you say it, Mark? There was a woman there, I guess. She was a nice woman, and she's she's a lady of a position in the Dells, and she's
fine position.
Yeah, she likes professional men, and even like. And anyhow,
Shows it goes beyond professional.
Anyway, so I had always been at lunch with Jim and always heard these stories about Jim in the service, and he said, you know, I was there in Vietnam, and and I was there in Cambodia, and I was there in Australia, and I just don't believe that I've ever had a girl come up and just, want to have anything to do with me much, I mean, just
Never
try to
been
pick me up on the
prostitute.
street, even prostitutes.
That's right.
They just don't talk. But at this party, let me just say, at this party, this is the perceptive lawyer. Jim's at this party, and people are getting a little bit drunk, and this lady, this very nice lady, happens to be married, and it happens to be a person with a kind of proclivity, I guess, to enjoy rubbing up to male people, enjoying their company, and so forth. In any event, her husband was off. He passed out or did something, and he's gone, and she's ready for a little companionship. And Jim Habberstadt, he's ready. There's about 3 of us around the pool, and he's had quite a drink. You know this is true, right? This lady, he's an attractive, a fine figure of a man. Anyway, this lady really had a thing for Jim. It was a crush. And they're out there in the pool.
Crushed my damn toe.
She's out there, and they're displaying various parts of their anatomy to one another. But Jim, for all of her efforts, she just couldn't quite, get Jim within her clutches. I mean, she tried every which way. They were comparing flat feet with high arches, or I don't know what else they were doing. And they were in the pool. She asked him if he could tie up, the part of her bathing suit.
That's not true.
She kind of.
Tell him that's not true.
In any event, this story, Jim knows it's true now, and it's a little embarrassing for him, and it wasn't until 3 weeks later we finally just dumbfoundedly, Jim was coming in there one day and saying, I wonder, what that was all about. She was really interested in my flat feet? In any event, it amazes me. Ever got to begin with such a lovely wife like Dolores. Anyway, that's my story about Jim. Jim was my...
Mopsy, she broke my toe. The only time.
That's true too.
That's right, isn't it?
She was working awfully hard. She was awfully close to you.
It just proves what Dolores said about you, and that's you wouldn't know if a woman made a pass at you if you were dead or not.
Another real close friend of Jimmy's is Gary Root. And Gary has joined us on a few hunting trips, and Gary has a couple of hunting stories that he'd like to share with both Jim and Dolores.
I'll guarantee you. Anything this guy says is a lie.
I think Gary has some proof tonight.
All right.
Does somebody have an adding machine?
No ka-chunks, ka-chunks. No ka-chunks. As all of you know that know Jimmy and Dolores, Jimmy has this fine, acute sense of hearing. And if you want a real thrill, I mean, go to a movie with Jim and Dolores. I mean, Dolores' hearing is fantastic. Mine is above excellent. When you're sitting there, Jimmy says, "What'd they say? What? What's going on? What did they say?" And that's the only thing you hear, isn't it?
That's because he's on the other side, and that's what he's saying.
Well, Bill had a story of a lost love that wasn't successful, but I've got a story that is true, and you were successful. So this goes back a long time, Jimmy, but we were in New Orleans together, the three of us, and we'd had a good time for a couple of we had a great time, and it was Sunday morning at about 8:30, and I thought, well, it's time to call Habberstadt and see if they're ready to go to breakfast, you know. And so I dialed their room number and said, "Ready for breakfast?" "Hell no, clunk."
That's not true. I picked up the phone, I said, "What do you want?"
When I finally found him 2 hours later, you know, I found out that at his age, it's kind of going off, and that, you know, that things were really working. But I found out that my timing was inappropriate, right? Timing was inappropriate. One of the things you can always count on with Jimmy, he's sharing. Now, if you happen to smoke cigarettes or chew or have some food around the house, I'm happy to share with you. I'm sure when you used to smoke, you recall that if it was normally a pack a day and you saw Jimmy, it suddenly went up to 2 packs at lunch hour. Very caring that way. And Bill and Bernie both mentioned his ability as a member of the bar, and I can attest to that. And once he gets you as a client, he likes to drag it on and on. Now, he's been working on it. Wait, right? He's been working on this divorce case of mine. You know, I may be on Medicare before this sucker.
It's a retirement plan.
It really is retirement. Retirement. He really is a man of integrity. I have to tell you this. He has a few glitches, but last week I called him. I said, "Jimmy, you know that horse of yours you've got up in my place?" I said, "Well, you know, we've had it shoot a couple times this summer. And have you ever paid your half?" And he said, "Horse?" I said, "Hold it, Jimmy. Let's back up. Do you recall that you have a horse at my place?" He said, "No, I don't recall." Deny. But at that point, my shoeing bills were out. I knew that. And I remember a couple years ago when we went down to buy a bit for his horse down to Garth Bonnie's. True story, right, Jimmy?
True story.
We walk in, we're buying a bit for his horse, and they said, "Well, how much is this one?" Garth said, "Well, it's $65. Jimmy says, no, it's got to be more expensive than that." So we go to the $95 bid, about $110 head stall, and before we got out of the store, it was all charged to Gary Root.
That's a true story.
All of us know of Jim's love for Lena and his love for Dolores. Sometimes
But not Dolores' love for Lena.
happened to figure out how he was going to put which priority first. Now, all of you know the kind of cars. All of you know the kind of cars that Jimmy drives. They're things of beauty, aren't they? I mean, the fact that they move. That's beautiful. And then Dolores has a fantastic Suburban that is just unbelievable. And there are no dogs allowed. There's hardly any kids. Hardly any friends. On a recent day, it was... Can you read that, Jimmy? Huh? What if you read it to the folks in the cheap seats? For those in the cheap seats, here's Dolores' Suburban with 3 dogs in there. One Lisa's, one Habberstadt. Is it dogs? Dolores?
Oh,
I don't see any dogs. It says denied. I don't recognize the car. I don't recognize the location. Oh, what do you think about it?
Just suggested we get seat covers.
Well, there you are, Jimmy. And the one last thing I want to share with everybody is Jimmy is a mechanical marvel. Anything you want fixed, I mean, give it to Jimmy. I mean, he has an ability to put things together. I mean, it's just awesome. The last summer on the Middle Fork, we were doing some rafting and some taping and some rafting and taping, just like Charlie's doing this evening. And all of a sudden, for some unknown reason, his brother decided it was Jimmy's turn to do some taping. And he is so good. I mean, NBC ought to be hiring this guy. He's got a monologue. He's got a style that is just totally Jimmy. And folks, this evening from the Middle Fork of the Salmon River, we have Jimmy Habberstadt. Roll it, Mark. Cameraman. Cameraman Habberstadt. Now that's the way it's supposed to be. See, that's before we got to the Habberstadt part of it. You notice, folks, that the boat is on the upside part of the water. Everything is working just fine.
What's this happen?
Jeff, I think Jim's booking a ride in there too.
This is happening.
We'll get a zoom up on him here.
What's the flow?
There wasn't much to it.
He's here before us.
Why is this crap?
Yeah, right there.
Roll it forward, Mark.
Jim.
It must have.
There they come.
Gotta get to the Habberstadt.
I think you have the wrong tape because
Oh, wait, I'm just...
That probably wouldn't have been any different. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Okay, Wayne Lease has a few stories here. You're last. You have
Oh, there's got to be more people than me.
No, that's it. Come on up.
He doesn't know that story.
Do I know some stories? I didn't think that Jimmy had this opportunity to talk about any of us. He'd probably start out by saying, now my friend, and I'm proud to say that this man is my friend. Well, I'm proud to say that this man is my friend. I have several stories to talk about Jimmy. I want to start about my first hunting experience. Now, I have this place out here in the hills that I think about as much of as any man can. If you enjoy hunting, this place is a supreme place to go. And I thought a long time about taking Jimmy, and so finally one day I found the kindness in my heart to take Jimmy out there. And this place is a little tricky to hunt, so you got to kind of understand that I wanted to be successful on this deal, and I wanted Jim to be successful. And earlier, I think it was Gary that talked about Jim's hearing. Well, Jim's eyesight isn't a hell of a lot. And his shooting is even worse. But in this particular place that I took Jimmy, it didn't take a hell of a lot of hearing or eyesight or even decent shooting that a person could be successful. But the key to this deal, the key to this place, was to hunt it right. You had to hunt it right. And so So I took Jimmy down and I laid it all out, and I told Jim exactly how this had to be done.
Never lay it out.
I told Jim exactly how this had to be done. You had to hunt it exactly as I told you, or it was going to be wrong. And so the scenario was that if Jim was to be in a certain spot, and I was going to make this drive. See, if you got to kind of follow this. I was going to make this drive, and all these birds I was going to push down to Jim, and Jim was going to coop the grom. See? Well, but now if he made a mistake, if he so much was out of position or made the wrong sound at all, he was going to spell out the whole thing. Jim assured me that he would do it exactly as I had told him how to do it. So I started to make my drive. Jim was in place. I gave Jim some time, and thank you. I'd given Jim a little time. And
Is this table service?
Jim had got into place. So I started my drive, and I could see the birds. And they were just all going Jim's direction. I figured any time Jim was going to start shooting. All of a sudden, I heard the goddamn blood-curdling scream. And the birds flew every which way. The birds flew off, and I went down there and I said, Jim, I said, what in the hell happened? Now, I told you what you had to do here. You had to be quiet. You had to be in a position here where, but hell no, you had to scream and you scared all the birds. I said, all right, Jim, I got to have an explanation. And he said, Wayne, he says, I did everything you told me. He said, I went down here. He said, I got right in the spot where you told me to be. And he said, a big old bear come up with 2 cubs. And he said, one cub licked me here, and one cub licked me here, and this big old she-bear licked me up here. He said, I didn't scream, I didn't move, didn't do anything. He said, I maintained my cool. And he said, shortly after that, a rattlesnake comes along, crawls up my pants leg, up inside my shirt, round up, over, back down, out in the pant leg, crawls. I said, I didn't make a sound. He said, I did just like you told me to do. But he said, Wayne, when those 2 chipmunks come along, one crawled up one leg, one crawled up the other leg, and they said to each other, shall I crack them now or take them with me? I've been kind of fond of a recent development in shot shells. A couple years ago, through technology, they developed copper shot shells. Now, these copper shot shells, now, they're a little on the spendy side, so that puts them a little out of Jim's category right off the bat. I really didn't mind flying in the shells, you understand? The particular advantage I had over using copper shot was when we come to the end of the day, we started cleaning the birds. If the birds had copper shot in them, then I pretty much knew they were mine, and if they didn't have copper shot,
You knew they'd died of fright.
I knew that Jim had scared them to death. Now, this went on for quite some time. I mean, all the birds, strange as it may seem, all had copper shot. None of them had anything else but copper shot.
Not true, but strange.
This is true. So, Jim, out of the kindness of his heart, towards the later end of the season, Jim says, now, Wayne, he says, I'm going to buy the shells on this trip. He said, I think it was the first year we went on the float trip. I said, Jim, that's mighty kind of you since you've shot up a couple $100 for my shells. It's nice of you to come up with some shells for me. So, we got on the river for the big float trip, and I said, Jim, where are the shells? Oh, he says, I got them right here. He digs them out. They're a Fred Meyer, $1.99 special. I still got some of them at the house. Most of the kids want them for their shooting shell Mattels, and I have a hell of a time explaining to them that these are actually real shells.
Totally plastic.
Because the bottom was a joke. Now, I can tell you a story story here about Jim's dog. Jim, he really does like this dog. And as someone brought up earlier, I think the big question is who he likes the most, his wife or his dog. One morning I decided to put it to a test. And as usual, they got ready for their float trip on the river, and they brought this trailer they have, this so-called raft trailer, and every year they take a different vehicle, so every year they bring it out to my shop and they expect me to rewire it because this particular morning, as on occasions, I sometimes go out to lunch with Jim, as Bernie does, and so this particular morning I'd been out to lunch with Jim, and he casually mentioned that he was going to take Lena on this trip with me. The only thing he forgot to do is he forgot to mention it to Dolores. He had mentioned it to me, but not to Dolores. So when he dropped by my shop...
raft trip. Not a hunting trip, a raft trip.
Yeah. So when he dropped by my shop, we got there rather early in the morning, about 6 or so, seeing how they were going to leave that afternoon about 3. We had to get an early start on the trailer. Brought it to the...
Still had to buy groceries and stuff.
Had to buy groceries and load the boats and a few things. We were
Made the
sitting in my
mistake of
office.
bringing Dolores with me.
We were in my office casually having a cup of coffee, and I mentioned to Dolores that Jim had planned on taking Lena on this trip. Well, instantly it gave Dolores probably the biggest case of lockjaw you ever seen in your entire life. And so, you know, feeling fortunate as I was there to kind of smooth things over, I continue on with the topic of taking the dog on the trip. In my usual tactful manner, I finally got a few comments out of Dolores. They were 4-letter ecclesiastical prayers for the most part. So finally, when they decided, shortly before they decided to leave, Dolores casually mentioned to Jim that he was going to have to make a choice if he was going to go on the trip. Her or the dog. Well, as they got out in the parking lot to leave and they drove by, I barked. As they drove by, of course, Dolores, she had a few more ecclesiastical. She was laying on Jim. Now, I'd like to tell you a story here about our experience at the playoffs of the basketball game last year.
Wait a minute. Who went on the trip?
I sure did find that out. I noticed in the movies I didn't see the dogs.
Who's sitting on the stool?
Right.
Last year during the basketball playoffs in Portland, we went down for what we thought was going to be a winning game. And if you recall, we took your number 1 and number 2 children with us.
That's right, we did.
And Jim was driving one of his luxury liners, the old Chevy. And he got in a trade-in deal for some attorney fees on an estate settlement. I think that the old boy that died got the better end of it. But anyway, we're coming out of the Coliseum. We get on the freeway. We're tooling along, and I believe it's somewhere between 4:30 and 4:45 in the afternoon. And Jim's driving along in this old car. See, we're about 33rd Avenue, moving along about 60 miles an hour. Well, I can't remember if it was Joe or Laurel, but one of them had a project at school, and they had a shamrock that they were supposed to color. And they were busy back in the seat coloring the shamrock. Finally, one of them says to Jim, "Hey, Dad, what do you think of my shamrock?" Jim goes, "Oh, that's pretty nice." Traffic had come to a dead stop. I tried to say something, but I couldn't. I tried to whistle. So I decided the next thing to do was start slapping. So I slapped him like this. Didn't work too well, so I started pounding on the dashboard. Finally, Jim turns around, stalls frequently on nights. You just know what it's like to take a drive to the beach and spend half the night in front of a used car lot in Midville. He has missed these things. So I took it upon myself. Out front is a 1971 Audi that I have taken upon myself to get for you for your birthday present.
1971 Audi.
It has 197,000. Jimmy, you ought to be able to get another 6 months out of it. I want you to try it for a while, and if you don't like it, let me know, yeah.
Hell, I'm going to put it away for Laura's first star.
I want you to try it for a few days. That's your birthday present. I rented it for you for a week or so just to let you try it. Maybe bring back some fond memories.
Here's a few presents from some of your good friends here. People can try out a collection. Do those. Yes.
Have at it.
Not sure I'm up to working my way through that.
Well, you can try it.
There's no,
You didn't get a card first.
no card there.
You'll know who it's from.
Couldn't find one raunchy enough.
All right. Thank you. There we are, folks. Woo. Gee, great. Yeah, I spent quite a little time at Norton's Oval, their calendar like this. Complaining I didn't have one like it. Thank you very much.
I don't think Cindy can wait a whole lot longer here. She has a gift she'd like to present to you, Jimmy.
She's not finished here.
Oh, great. Oh, isn't that great? Chris has got another matched 11 like this I'm going to take out and sit out so I
I didn't make that for you to shoot at. Did you do that?
Yeah, she did. She does this. This is gorgeous.
Did you carve it? I buy them just in the plain wood.
This is for you because I know that
Chris,
this
that's
will
beautiful.
remind you of when you first moved to the Dalles.
Dog here to chase it out of the way.
It's like Laurel. Yeah.
The cat, Jimmy loves cats, and when we first moved to the Dalles, we were house sitting for Florence Williams. Yeah. And her house is the one on stilts behind Don's house. She's Don Williams' sister. And she was a wonderful lady. And she got married when she was 73 for the first time. And she had so many wonderful things in her house that she couldn't pack them up. And so we house sat for her because we didn't have a place to live. But part of the deal for house sitting was to take care of these cats. And she had lots of cats. And she had one that she gave special instructions to Jim about taking care of it very carefully because it was afraid of men. she was really scared of men. And we had to feed these cats and be sure that they were well taken care of. So as soon as Florence left, every time this cat came up to the door, Jim would run up and go, and the cat would just beat it. We would feed the cat for about 3 days. As soon as the cat came back, you know, Jim would do this again. And then she had an inside cat that had its own chair, and she had another cat that was kind of in the kitchen all the time, and we were careful to take care of this cat. The one that had its own chair hated Jim. Hated him. It could have been because Jim tried to sit on it all the time when it was on this chair, you know, I don't know, but it was her favorite cat. But they had lots of problems. Jim just couldn't make this cat happy. It would growl, and you know, and they were just having conflicts all the time. So one morning, well then, I was pregnant with Laura, and there's some horrible disease you get when you're pregnant. You can't deal with cats, so all the cats became Jim's responsibility. And anytime they made a mess, Jim had to clean them up. I just didn't have anything to do with them. And so one morning, I was in the kitchen fixing breakfast. It was real kind of dark, and this cat would try to get in our bedroom, and Jim would shut the door and throw this cat in the hall. You know, it was awful. And so the cat was ready for Jim, and I went into the kitchen, and all of a sudden, I heard...
You weren't fixing breakfast. You were still in bed.
No, I was in the kitchen. I don't know if I was fixing breakfast. I was in the kitchen. Anyway, I heard this horrible string of obscenities, and I went down, and this cat deposited right in front of our bedroom door, and when Jim got out of bed, he goes, "Oh, that's not on," and he slid all the way down. He was so mad. That cat didn't come around for about a week, and we vowed never to have a cat again.
It's when we lived at that house. That was, we lived in another place for about 8 or 9 months. We got here, and then we moved to that house. In the meantime, about the first good friend I made here was Bernie. And it was while we were at that house, we were going to go to Eugene to a ball game. And so Bernie was in charge of the refreshments.
I wasn't going to tell any of those stories.
And we got fairly refreshed on the way down there, to the point where we got to my present partner's parents' home, and I had no idea whether I was a foot or horseback. I was absolutely outdoors. And Bernie, Linda had the good sense to get Bernie drug off to go shopping someplace. And I went into Bill's parents' home and sat there for a while and got more and more intoxicated and more sick, and suddenly had to race outside and disgrace myself by throwing up all over their lawn. And that's the way the day started.
It went downhill.
Up hills and downhills from there. But in any event, we ended up leaving there sometime in the evening, and Bernie and I barely making our way to the car, where we laid down and went to sleep. And every time we woke up on the way home, it was yep, just like that. And we finally got home, and Dolores dumped me off and was going to take Bernie and Linda over to where they left Marty and Arthur for the day. And we had the old station wagon, which we got from Uncle Bill, and it had a problem every time you took the tailgate down. It burned a fuse out, and you didn't have all your lights. But Bernie assured Dolores, going across town, "Don't worry, Dolores, I know every cop in the territory, and you're absolutely safe, so just go ahead and drive." And so they started across town, and they got someplace partway across town, and they got stopped. The lights were out, and blip, 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 and they came up. And Bernie, in all of his officialdom, raised himself up and rolled the window down about 3 turns and looked out, and here this young cop came up, and he said, "Geez, Dolores, I don't know him," and he laid back down.
My protection was gone.
This one's from John and Carolyn. It used to be I could read this up fairly close, but wanted to get you a sporty car with bucket seats for your birthday, but didn't know the size of your bucket. That was from John. I had to tell that one.
You left, oh my God, that's terrible.
I left out some of the good parts.
Yeah, she left.
Yeah, one of the good parts I left out is Bill's mother saying, I've never met a district attorney.
That was when I was trying to use their closet for other purposes.
This is from the Wilson. It says pop, glug, 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 a whole bunch of times. A six-pack has been consumed in your name. That's fitting.
Right.
Another birthday. In the front, we show this case. Another birthday, another case of flaws. Mark and Jack. We're talking a pristine wilderness experience.
Next year we're bringing a haunted generator and a ghetto blast.
I know who this came from. I'm afraid to open it. This is from Wayne and Laurel. I've never seen you looking younger. Older, perhaps.
What was it?
Cigars.
Cigar.
Oh.
And the judge.
The kids
Oh.
Matches?
And the
Okay,
judge.
this is your ordinary
Cruising
middle
car.
fork raft flip survival kit.
Oh boy.
I found this kicking around. It's not new, but neither are you. When your raft flips upside down and you're all wet, owning this snorkel will make you forget that when you're underwater and feeling bad, having this snorkel will make you glad. All I ask is don't make it a fad. Happy birthday, Jim Marshall.
All right. Save that for June.
I'll
Save
give
it
it
for
to the
June.
guy
on the front of your raft.
I know.
More time underneath the raft tonight.
Yeah, I can't
He
believe it.
was.
That was a ways along with it.
Rod did a good job of convincing somebody of that.
That's pretty good. Look around, see everything.
have to read the bottom of the package.
Bottom of the
No,
package.
no, never mind.
Dolores told us no one else would talk. There we go.
Yes, dude?
Actually, this is my partner's sweatshirt. That's great. Thank you very much.
Here's some the useful gifts.
Yeah, here we are. A little CC.
That's
Cap
great.
off that. I never did tell that story, did I? Jim and I went down to Portland one weekend, one day it was
One
actually.
day,
to
Friday.
Pick up, Friday. To pick up Dolores' girlfriend coming in from Philadelphia, right?
Right.
So we got about to Rowena. Jim said, "You got anything we're driving my pickup. Did you got anything to drink this son of a bitch?" And I said, "Well, I might have." So I reached there in the seat and I pulled out a jug of black velvet. And I just took the top off, rolled down the window, and threw it out the window.
It was R&R, but he did throw it out.
That was R&R. So we proceeded to drink this fifth of R&R between the Dalles and Portland. We got to Portland, we were feeling very little of no pain whatsoever. And by the time we got back home, Jim was doing his usual, sleeping and slobbering on himself. I was driving.
Fair is fair.
But did you remember Dolores' friend?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got her
Picked
picked
her
up.
up.
It was 2 hours late they were. She was sitting there with her bag. Everybody was gone. Kind of like you were today in the airport. She had her bag.
Like she
Down
was,
there.
I was the one coming in.
We checked her parking ticket.
We were talking to some ex-cop that he knew.
Yeah.
No, that was you.